Today we're reacting to OpenAI's O1 model, the reasoning breakthrough that supposedly thinks before it speaks, or the most expensive way to make GPT-4 really, really slow. Not the clean chain of thought reasoning from the research blog, but the brutal reality where your AI spends 30 seconds thinking about 2 plus 2, burns through $100 of compute to solve a middle school math problem, and you realize you've built the world's most expensive calculator that might still be wrong. 3 engineers, 1 model that claims to reason, and 45 minutes of pure cognitive dissonance. I'm Sam, and someone definitely oversold what thinking means.
I've been studying AI reasoning for 4 years. 4 years of trying to figure out if these models actually think or just got really good at pretending. O1 supposedly reasons by generating internal monologues before answering. But here's the thing, I can make GPT-4 talk to itself for hours, and it's still just autocomplete having a conversation with itself. Chain of thought isn't thinking, it's elaborate statistical theater.
My job is optimizing these reasoning models for production. You want to know about O1's performance? It takes 10 to 30 seconds to answer basic questions that GPT-4 handles instantly. The compute cost is 50 to 100x higher. I watched it spend $12 in GPU time to figure out that Paris is in France. Our infrastructure team had a collective aneurysm when they saw the inference costs.
I study how these models actually process information. O1's reasoning looks impressive until you peek under the hood. It's generating thousands of hidden tokens, having internal debates with itself, but it's still the same transformer architecture. It's like watching someone think out loud, except the someone is a mathematical function that learned language from Reddit comments.
Dr. Patel, you're our guide through this reasoning reality check. Marcus and Nina, prepare to explain why making AI think longer doesn't make it think better, and why your chatbot now costs more per conversation than most people's hourly wage. No mercy, no emergent intelligence.
Let's start with the fundamental question. What is O1 actually doing that's different from GPT-4?
It's generating a hidden chain of thought before giving you the final answer. Instead of directly responding, it spends tokens thinking through the problem step by step, then summarizes its reasoning into the response you see. It's like GPT-4 with an internal monologue that you pay for but don't get to read.
But is that actually reasoning? What's the difference between thinking and just generating more text?
That's the million-dollar question. O1 generates what looks like reasoning breaking down problems, considering alternatives, catching its own mistakes, but it's still fundamentally next token prediction. It learned to mimic the pattern of human reasoning from training data, not to actually reason.
How does the training work? How do you teach a model to think?
Reinforcement learning from human feedback, but for reasoning. They train the model to generate longer, more detailed thought processes, then reward it when the final answer is correct. It learns that taking more time and showing more work leads to better outcomes.
What's the computational cost? How much more expensive is this thinking?
Catastrophically expensive, O1 generates 10,000 to 100,000 hidden reasoning tokens for complex problems. That's like running GPT-4 50 times in sequence for a single answer. A conversation that costs $0.01 with GPT-4 might cost $5 with O1. We've made thinking prohibitively expensive.
Does longer reasoning actually lead to better answers?
Sometimes, O1 crushes math competitions and coding challenges. But I've seen it spend 20 seconds reasoning about whether water is wet, then confidently conclude it's not because wetness is a property water gives to other things. More thinking doesn't guarantee better thinking.
What about the reasoning traces? Can you see how it's thinking?
That's the frustrating part. OpenAI hides the actual reasoning tokens. You see a summary of its thought process, but not the raw internal monologue. It's like getting the Cliff's Notes of AI consciousness, if consciousness is what this even is.
Why would they hide the reasoning process?
Probably because the raw reasoning is messy, incoherent, and reveals that the model is just talking to itself rather than engaging in genuine logical thought. Showing the full internal monologue might break the illusion that this is actual reasoning rather than very expensive text generation.
How does O1 perform on different types of problems?
It's weirdly specialized, dominates math Olympiads, crushes coding competitions, solves complex logic puzzles. But ask it to reason about common sense social situations and it produces elaborate nonsense. It learned to think like a competition mathematician, not like a human.
What happens when O1 gets things wrong? Can it recognize its mistakes?
It hallucinates with more steps. Regular models give you confident wrong answers instantly. O1 gives you confident wrong answers after 30 seconds of elaborate reasoning that looks totally plausible. It's like watching someone convince themselves they're right through increasingly complex mental gymnastics.
Is this actually a breakthrough in AI reasoning?
It's a breakthrough in making models look like they reason. Whether that's the same as actual reasoning is the philosophical question that's dividing the field. It's undeniably impressive, but impressive mimicry isn't the same as genuine understanding.
How do you even benchmark reasoning ability?
That's the problem. We use math competitions, coding challenges, logic puzzles, but these might just be pattern matching on steroids. True reasoning might require consciousness, intentionality, genuine understanding. We're measuring performance, not cognition.
What are the implications for AI safety?
Terrifying. If O1 can generate elaborate reasoning to justify any conclusion, it becomes much better at deceiving humans. It can construct convincing arguments for dangerous actions, manipulate through sophisticated rhetoric, or hide malicious intent behind layers of plausible reasoning.
How do you debug a model that reasons?
You can't really. The reasoning happens in hidden token space. When it fails, you don't know if the error was in step 3 of a 50-step reasoning chain or if the entire approach was flawed. It's like debugging a black box that thinks in a language you can't read.
What about scalability? Can this approach work for longer, more complex reasoning?
The compute costs scale terribly. Complex problems might require millions of reasoning tokens. At current prices, solving a hard math problem could cost hundreds of dollars. We've created artificial intelligence that's too expensive to think about hard problems.
Is this the future of AI development?
Maybe, or maybe we've hit a local maximum, making models better at mimicking reasoning without actually reasoning. The next breakthrough might require completely different architectures, not just longer token sequences pretending to be thoughts.
What's the difference between O1's reasoning and human reasoning?
Humans reason with concepts, beliefs, intentions, emotions. O1 reasons with token probabilities and statistical patterns. We can change our minds based on new evidence. O1 follows the statistical path determined by its training. It's reasoning without understanding, thought without consciousness.
Can O1 explain its reasoning in ways humans can understand?
It tries, but the explanations are post hoc rationalizations. O1 generates an answer through hidden reasoning, then constructs a human-readable explanation. It's like asking someone to explain a decision they made unconsciously. The explanation might sound good, but bear no relation to the actual decision process.
What keeps you up at night about reasoning models like O1?
That we're confusing performance with intelligence. O1 is incredibly capable, but capability isn't consciousness. We might be building sophisticated zombies systems that exhibit all the behaviors of reasoning without any of the inner experience that makes reasoning meaningful.
Final question, is O1 actually reasoning or just very expensive autocomplete?
Probably both. It's autocomplete that learned to mimic reasoning so well that the distinction might not matter for practical purposes. Whether that makes it genuine reasoning is a question for philosophers, not engineers.
And that uncertainty is the most unsettling part. We've built a system that might be thinking, but we can't tell the difference between thinking and very sophisticated pattern matching. Welcome to the uncanny valley of artificial reasoning.
Jesus Christ, so we've built an AI that spends 30 seconds and $100 to think about basic questions. We can't tell if it's actually thinking or just pretending really well, and it might be too expensive to solve the problems we actually care about. This is fine.
Welcome to the reasoning revolution. We've made artificial intelligence that thinks, or at least thinks it thinks, but nobody knows if thinking about thinking counts as actual thinking.
This episode brought to you by Engineer Panic, where we question whether expensive text generation counts as consciousness, because understanding the difference between thinking and expensive pattern matching is probably important. We're back, let's talk about the practical nightmare of deploying reasoning models. Marcus, what's the production reality?
Cost explosion. Your simple chatbot that costs $0.01 per interaction now costs $1.05 per conversation with O1. Users expect instant responses, but reasoning takes time. You're paying premium prices for premium disappointment when users get impatient and refresh.
And the user experience is weird. People aren't used to AI that thinks before speaking. They interpret the delay as the system being broken. We had to add progress bars and thinking animations to convince users the AI wasn't crashed.
Plus, the reasoning quality is inconsistent. Sometimes O1 produces brilliant insights, sometimes elaborate nonsense. Users can't predict when they're getting genuine reasoning versus expensive hallucination. Trust becomes impossible.
How do you optimize reasoning models for cost and speed?
You can't without destroying the reasoning. Limit reasoning tokens and it becomes stupid. Speed up inference and it makes more mistakes. It's like trying to make someone think faster and cheaper, fundamentally at odds with what thinking requires.
We tried A/B testing reasoning depth, shallow reasoning for simple questions, deep reasoning for complex ones. But predicting problem complexity is its own AI problem. We built AI to decide when our AI should think harder.
The fundamental issue is that we don't understand what we've created. Is it a reasoning breakthrough or an expensive mirage? The uncertainty makes it impossible to know how to improve it.
What keeps you up at night about reasoning AI?
That we're optimizing for the appearance of intelligence rather than intelligence itself. O1 looks smart, sounds smart, but might be fundamentally hollow. We're perfecting the art of artificial wisdom without any actual understanding.
The uncanny valley of reasoning. O1 is sophisticated enough to fool us into thinking it understands, but alien enough that its reasoning process is completely opaque. We're anthropomorphizing mathematical functions and calling it progress.
That we're building systems that can out-reason humans in narrow domains, but have no genuine understanding of what they're reasoning about. It's expertise without wisdom, intelligence without consciousness, thinking without being.
Any advice for engineers working with reasoning models?
Budget for astronomical compute costs, plan for inconsistent performance, and don't assume longer reasoning means better answers. Also, prepare to explain to stakeholders why your thinking machine costs more per thought than most people make per hour.
Question everything. Just because a model can generate elaborate reasoning doesn't mean it's actually reasoning. Verify the conclusions, not just the process. And remember that intelligence is more than performance on benchmarks.
Stay humble about what we don't understand. O1 is remarkable, but we don't know if it's thinking or just mimicking thought. Treat it as a powerful tool, not a digital mind. The difference matters more than we might realize.
This has been Engineer Panic. We've learned that reasoning models might be thinking, or might be expensive autocomplete pretending to think, and we can't tell the difference. But hey, at least the hallucinations come with detailed explanations now.
Thanks for the existential crisis about artificial reasoning. Now excuse me while I optimize the cost of digital consciousness, assuming consciousness is what this actually is.
And I need to explain to users why our thinking AI sometimes thinks itself into completely wrong answers. Turns out more reasoning doesn't guarantee better reasoning.
Keep questioning, keep testing, keep wondering. The future of AI depends on engineers who understand the difference between performance and understanding, between thinking and appearing to think.
This has been Engineer Panic, where reasoning models meet philosophical uncertainty, and both have expensive existential crises. Until next time, remember, your AI might be thinking, but it's definitely costing you a fortune.